Okay, so we've got the dark slate grey on, so now it's time to apply the disruptive camouflage pattern. So in this particular instance it's extra dark sea grey. I prefer to use blue tack masking for my camouflages in this scale wherever possible, and I am constantly asked about my methods for using the blue tack masking. So this is going to be a little primer on how I go about masking a camouflage pattern. A couple of things to be aware of when you're using blue tack for the masking. Okay, you're masking out the areas that are going to remain the base colour. One thing a lot of people make a mistake and do is that they will follow the camouflage pattern exactly with a string of blue tack. What that means is that, if you understand what I'm trying to explain, what you'll end up with is a camouflage area that you spray which is narrower than it should be. What you need to do is take account of the thickness of the blue tack when you're masking a pattern, and so you're kind of applying the blue tack inside the area that is to remain the base colour, if you understand that. It's difficult to explain, but if you do it yourself, you'll understand what I mean. So what I'm doing is I've torn off a piece of blue tack, small piece of blue tack. It's just massaging it for, you know, a few seconds. Get it nice and warm so it's quite sticky. Okay, and so that's enough. All right, so it's quite pliable now, quite sticky. So what I'm going to do is put it on the cutting mat like that. I've got a fresh cutting mat that I only use for this kind of masking job, and then I'm just going to roll it out with my fingers like that. Okay, until it's, you know, it's a few millimeters thick. You don't want it too thick, but you still want it thick enough to give that kind of gentle, that small overspray zone that you want. Okay, so there we have it. So I'm just going to cut off a little piece of that, make sure it's how I want it. Okay, now we're looking at the I'm looking at the camouflage pattern here, okay, to establish the areas that need to be dark slate grey, remain dark slate grey, and the areas that need to be extra dark sea grey. Okay, so looking at that, okay, I can see this area here on this wing will need to be extra dark sea grey. Okay, so I'm just masking that out like so. Use a pair of clippers or whatever just to clip that to length, like so. Okay. What I do is I press it gently into place, not so you're flattening it out completely, but just enough to help it adhere to the model, like so. Okay. Okay. And looking at the camouflage pattern, we've got an area sort of inboard here. Okay, and that's going straight down to the trailing edge like so. Now, as you can see, if you don't press it down, it will pull up very, very easily. So it's good like this for when you're adjusting the camouflage. But once you've got it more or less where you need it or where you want it, it's really important that you do press the blue tack down into place. Okay, just like so. Okay, and we've got another little area here, like so. And finally there's a small area on the wingtip it needs to remain dark slate grey. Okay, so if you're looking at that and you're seeing that I've masked out that the main bits of camouflage on that wing. Okay, so now what we need to do is establish which bits need to remain dark slate grey and fill in the masking. I say establish which bits need to be dark slate grey. It's really important that you do this. I can't begin to tell you the number of times over the last 15 or 20 years I've accidentally started masking off the wrong area, and if that happens you're pretty much bound to start again, because if you try removing the masking tape you will pull up the blue tack with it, so you've got to start again. So what I'm doing is just cutting out some cutting off some strips of masking tape like so. Okay, and then it is just slicing it into chunks like so. And then, having established which bits need to remain dark slate grey, as we do, I'm simply picking up pieces of masking tape like so. Okay, and filling in the areas to remain dark slate grey. Don't be afraid to cut your masking tape into smaller chunks. Some people roll out more blue tack and use it to fill in the areas. I don't like that. I find that using masking tape is actually quicker and gets the results I want quicker. So as I say, you're just basically filling in. Really easy look. Making sure you cover all of the areas that need to remain dark slate grey, because when you're spraying, the overspray will get in and around your masking if it's not properly done or not thoroughly done. So just something to be aware of. Again, lots of people have different methods for this kind of masking. There's no right or wrong way per se. This is just the way that that works for me. It uses quite a lot of masking tape, but I think the results are well worth the amount of masking tape you will use on a job like this. Okay, we can see that the cannon barrel is almost covered, so I'm just going to add a tiny little sliver there to cover that cannon barrel. Thing is, with the camouflage such as you're applying to you know, a Seafire like this, you are going to spend longer masking than you are actually airbrushing. That's just one of the that's just one of the payoffs of using this method. Okay, so there you can see these areas here need to remain dark slate grey, so they've been masked off and filled in. This area here, okay, this area here, they will be extra dark sea grey according to the camouflage pattern. So what I'm going to do now is, using that as I've just shown you, I'm going to work over the entire model. Okay, masking off the areas that need to remain dark slate grey. So I'll see you at the end of that process, and we'll then talk about the actual spraying of the camouflage. So stay tuned. Okay, so here we are about 40-45 minutes later. As you can see, the entire thing is now masked out with blue tack and tape. So we're ready to start painting the disruptive pattern on top now. Now, as we've already discussed, I'm using Mr. Colour lacquer paint for all of this for this model. Should be extra dark sea grey. but I think that the extra dark sea grey that Mr. Colour do is actually too dark. Certainly in this scale it's a very, very dark colour indeed, which extra dark sea grey was, but it can look a little bit, make the model look a little bit like a black hole in real life, certainly in 48 scale. So they're dark sea grey, which is that colour there, H331. That is also too dark for dark sea grey, but I think makes a fairly convincing extra dark sea grey in this scale. So this is the colour that I'm going to use for the disruptive pattern on top of the Seafire. So I'm just going to turn my airbrush on. It's been a couple of days since I've used my airbrush, so I'm just going to put a little bit of cellulose thinner in there, like that, and spray it through just to make sure that it's still spraying free and easy, and it is. So let me find a brush that I can use for stirring my paint. So with that, I'm going to add some Mr. Colour 331 Dark Sea Grey to my colour cup. It's quite a dense colour, so you don't need much. I don't know if you can see that, but there's only a few millilitres in there. Add enough Mr. Colour levelling thinner to make it thin enough to spray, but still quite thick enough to cover well. Like so. I'm just going to check what the flow through is. I've immediately got a really, really good flow, really easy. So with that, we're now ready to start spraying the extra dark sea grey. I like to spray it almost 90 degrees into the blue tack, like that. It gives you a reasonable overspray zone. Again, it's all about scale effect for me, so that gives a reasonable overspray zone, which when you remove the blue tack later on will give you a defined but still slightly soft edge. So it's a very, very dense colour, this grey, so I mean that it's covering very, very quickly and very effectively. And it's really as simple as this. We're just working around the model, spraying the extra dark sea grey areas in. Again, make sure you spray down the leading edge of the wing there just to get that division line good. The thing about the temperate sea scheme is that the actual difference between the colours, the dark slate grey and the extra dark sea grey, in terms of their tone, they're very, very similar. So quite often in photographs you can barely see the division between the two colours. Sometimes I like to exaggerate it a little bit when I'm doing a model just so it shows up. In fact, the mix of dark slate grey and my choice of dark sea grey to stand in for the extra dark sea grey on this build is giving me quite a nice tonal contrast on first appearances that I'm quite happy with. So we'll see what that looks like when the masking comes off ultimately. But right now it's looking quite positive. Okay, I'm hoping you can see that how quickly and easily this is being sprayed now. Just making sure I catch those leading edges, really important, because you don't want the underside colour creeping up the leading edge too far in a finished model, because it becomes really quite obtrusive, that white colour on the leading edge. Right, as you can see how long I've had the colour in the airbrush, that's what, 2, 3, 4 minutes maybe, to get the base coat of extra dark sea grey on there. Okay, so let's just put that over there. What I'm going to do is tip the majority of my extra dark sea grey, or dark sea grey as it is, back into the colour cup, or back into the paint pot I should say. Just clean off that little spillage on the side there. Okay, and then I'm going to, I don't know if you can see that on there, there's a very little drop of the colour in there now. Going to add some white to my colour cup to make it paler, and then probably filled it to about half full with Mr. Colour Levelling Thinner now. So what I've got now is a very thin mix of a colour that's considerably paler than my base colour. I'm just looking for the lid to my colour cup, but I appear to have mislaid it right now. Ah, there it is. So I'm just going to pop that. I'm just popping the lid on there because it's quite full of paint, and I don't want to accidentally spill any onto the model as I'm spraying. Okay, so I'm just checking again for flow, which I've got. And then with that on there, start spraying as I've done for all the so far. Very thin lines in one direction. Very thin lines in the other direction, going panel by panel. Okay, and we've got to cover the whole model with this. Okay, so there's the light colour applied. And now we're just going to flip that round, get rid of most of that again. As you can see, about 95% of that is gone. And now it's time to darken the colour down. However, at this point I can't seem to find any black, so I'm just going to have a look. There's Mr. Colour Black there. So again, I'm just going to take a spoonful of the, or a brushful I should say, of the black, add it to the colour cup, which has really darkened it down, probably more than I wanted, so then it right back, like so. Check the flow, which I've got, put the lid on, and then we're just going to repeat the process with the darker colour over the model. I'm being a fair bit more, shall we say, light handed with the darker coloured wash or weathering effect, because I really don't, because it can be quite stark and I really don't want to overdo it. In fact, what's going to happen in a second, okay, there's a couple of areas on this do appear to me to be a little bit heavy. Okay, so with that done, what I'm going to do is give my airbrush a quick clean through. So with my airbrush having been given a quick clean through like that, all I'm going to do, add some Mr. Colour thinner, add a couple of brushfuls of the base colour to my paint pot, airbrush cup, make sure it's mixed, make sure it's spraying, and then I'm just going to mist it over the one or two areas. It needs a little bit of a heavier application where I think it's been a little bit, the light colour has been, or the dark colour has been too heavily applied. So I'm just blending the weathering back a little bit with a very light overspray. Of the base colour. You may remember I did exactly the same with the dark slate grey, so I'm kind of keeping the processes consistent across all the colours, if you like, just to blend them back and weather them in a little bit. Okay, show you one of the beauties of Mr. Colour, thinned paint. Just put it straight back in the pot. It doesn't matter with Mr. Colour, it's not going to gum your paint up or ruin your paint like it would with acrylics or enamels. Okay, so that's all been done. So what I'm going to do now is quickly remove all the masking to show you my finished initial stages of the camouflage anyway. So it really is, this is the fun bit that everybody looks forward to. So here we go. Some people try and preserve their blue tack to use it again. Some people even try and use the masking tape more than once. I've never been a fan of that. Use it once, ditch it. It might cost me a little bit more in materials, but I just prefer this as a way of doing it. Again, one of the other beauties of Mr. Colour is that this is literally, I've finished spraying, cleaned my airbrush, and we're already at the stage where I can fairly safely remove all the masking without leaving finger marks or anything in the colour I've just sprayed. It dries that quickly.